Welcome to our podcast. We'll think of something. This is Jam.
And this is Daniela. Today on our podcast, episode 2, we'll be speaking with Colleen Frantz. Alright, so I say start us from the beginning, like leaving high school and starting at college and then...
Oh, yeah. Well, it actually even started before college.
Oh, okay.
Because in high school, like they always prepare you for college and they just prepare you for that next step. So I just decided, like, oh, yeah, I didn't even really decide. Like, that was what society says I should do. So I just took that route, but I really had no idea what the heck I was doing. Like, my mom was like, all right, well, let's apply for colleges. And I just literally looked at her and was like, okay, sure.
I think that's a lot of people's, that was my story.
I think that's also
Did you feel that pressure?
Fuck no. Parents were like, I know you're smart and you can do what you want. So right after, I actually graduated high school hella early, like a little after sophomore year.
I didn't know
Holy
that.
cow.
Because I thought high school sounds pretentious, but I hated all my classmates because they were too stupid. I know that sounds messed up, but I just couldn't keep up with their stupidity.
Yeah.
So I told my parents to put me to homeschooling.
Oh.
And then I graduated a year and a half early because I just finished everything.
Yeah.
When did you go into homeschooling?
Sophomore year, like right in the beginning.
Oh.
So I graduated like middle of junior year, technically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so for the rest of high school, quote unquote, it was me traveling like all over, not all over, just like California and doing fun shit with my friends. But
that's cool.
Yeah. So no, I didn't live up to that. I had to go to college. I actually haven't even gone to college, and I'm barely realizing what I want to do for college.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing is, like, at 18 years old, how is anybody supposed to know what the heck they want to do for the rest of their life?
I didn't know shit at 18.
No.
I don't know anything now.
Oh, no.
I was going to say, like, this is the age right now where you've already gone to the beginning of life experiences, and you start to realize, like, what your dislikes and likes are and what you actually should do for the rest of your life, rather than, just start out at 18 and just make it up.
Now, did you feel like that's what you did right out of high school?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. I had no idea what I hadn't experienced enough to know what I liked and didn't like.
Right.
I didn't know, like, there were so many possibilities. There's like thousands of jobs out there. Like, it's not like 20 years, or not even 20 years, like 60 years ago when you had like a few professions that you could do. Now it's like
our secretaries.
Yeah.
There are so many
secretary
jobs.
Um,
or mom.
Yeah.
Sometimes like someone will come into the coffee shop I work at, and I'll ask them, "Oh, what do you do?" And it's something you've never heard before.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, people do that? Easy. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So once I started college, I started undecided, but in the first semester, they were already pressuring me to say, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? Because, they say you can be undecided for 2 years, but you still, if you don't get into your major, then you don't have any of those classes.
Right.
So you're going to be a year behind and all that other stuff. So it's like, okay, well, what's the point of being undecided then? And so they were like, pick a major. So I just picked art because that was the only thing that didn't stress me out. And then I was like, well, I don't want to be a starving artist and I don't want to be a teacher. So...
Right, that kind of limits the options.
And I don't like computer art, so I was like, that pretty much limits my options.
Yeah.
So that wasn't happening, so I kind of just went through a freak out stage and joined the military.
Oh, no.
How far into your college experience? Like, were you a year?
Well, I was freaking out after the first semester. Well, actually, the first day of classes. I went there and I had a panic attack mid-class, and I was like, what am I doing here? Why am I doing this? I don't even know what the heck. I felt like everything the professor was saying was just like a completely different language.
Right.
I was like, I know the school mindset, but it was like, it just, I didn't understand what I was doing. I was like, why am I here? And then I got through the first semester and I was like, okay, I figured it out. But then I was like, I don't know what to do. I was like, why? Everybody kept asking me, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And I was like, I don't know.
I hate that question too.
I was like, even now, I have a lot of options, but at least I've narrowed it down.
Right, because you experience some things, so you can actually say, like, okay, well, I enjoy doing that kind of thing. I don't enjoy doing that kind of thing.
So what was, like, the push to join the military then? What was the fine point to that?
I think finally, after choosing art as a major and then realizing, oh, I love this thing, but I still can't make a career out of it after what I want to do. So I like stayed up until 2 a.m. one night, and I ended up texting one of my friends, and he's like, oh, well, you know, Carrie was looking into the military, and I hadn't even thought of the military.
Okay.
It wasn't even a thing on my mind, because throughout high school, like, they never really had that as an option for us. Like, they didn't have people come in and talk about it. My grandparents were drafted way back when, but they never really talked about it, so I didn't even think about it. And then, so when my friend mentioned the military, I was like, oh, okay. So I stayed up until like 5 a.m. like researching each of the branches, and I was like, Army? No. Marines? No. That's not gonna happen. So I just picked Navy because they were like, travel the world and see everything.
Yeah, they make it sound real good, right?
Yeah. Which my recruiter he was pretty honest with me. He was like, you know, it's not all peaches and cream. You know, you're not gonna be sitting there like doing nothing all day. You're gonna work hard. You're gonna have really shitty food, which he should have emphasized the shitty food part, because that was just horrible.
That surprises me, actually. I would think there's like chefs aren't there like Navy chefs?
Oh yeah, there are.
And they just suck.
No.
Well, so what job did you end up doing?
I was it's called Damage Controlman, but it's basically like a firefighter on the ship.
Okay.
So we don't actually just fight fires, but there's like any kind of casualty.
Right.
So we would have to deal with like toxic gas all over the ship, flooding, fires, obviously. Those happen all the time with electrical boxes, because it was a 37-year-old ship, so that thing was just falling apart around you. Structural damage, things just falling apart all the time. But yeah, so we did that whenever it happened. So like 2 a.m. when you finally get to go to sleep. Of course, there's something falling apart on the ship, so you have to go fix it. But then during the day, we would like do maintenance on all of our equipment and whatnot. So working with your hands mainly.
Was that something you chose?
Yeah.
Oh, you did choose it?
Well, another thing that the Navy was not very good at doing was explaining the jobs.
Oh no.
So they were like, firefighter, and I was like, yeah, cool. I was like, okay, you're firefighter 1% of the time, and then you're like doing crappy jobs 99% of the time. So you're like up to your elbows in grease, and like we were working with this stuff called AFFF, which is seawater and like this super corrosive foam mixed together. So like anytime it got on you, like your skin would turn green, and like your boots were leather, they would turn green. It was just anything it touched. It was used to put out fires.
Oh.
It was used to put out grease fires. So like they looked thick, and it would like just get everything. Oh, it was like
It's like a nightmare to clean up too, right?
Oh yeah, because as soon as you rub a mop over it, it just foams up. So then you just get more foam, and then you just keep trying to mop the foam, and it just never goes away. This is an endless cycle.
So you left college at what, 8? You were still 18, right? I don't know.
I think it was 19. Yeah, I joined the military when I was 19.
And then you go to just the basic boot camp?
Oh yeah.
Where was that?
That was fun. In Great Lakes. Right north of Chicago, I think. It's like 45-minute train ride.
Okay.
Away from Chicago.
How was that?
Exciting.
Yeah.
Life-changing, but in a kind of good way, but bad at the same time. Because it really does push you to your limits, and it makes you realize like what your physical limits are, your mental limits, and like your body's limit is. I didn't realize that I could go that long without sleep, or go that long like without food, or you know, like they push you to do as many push-ups as you possibly can and then keep going. Like it's you really learn about everything about yourself. So
what kind of, was there a certain test you had to pass at the end, or How did it kind of, were you just, once you survived the however many weeks, then you were good, or what?
No, well, there were several tests along the way. So you have to, there's 3 physical tests throughout the way that you have to run, push-ups, and sit-ups. That's pretty much it. I know in the Marines and the Army you have to do pull-ups too, I think. But for us, it was just the 3. And you have to go and pass each of those as you go along. The last one, if you don't pass, then you get pushed back and you have to go back like a few weeks. And then there's like different tests as you go along. So you have to pass the gas chamber. You have to go through the gas chamber.
What does that mean?
Yeah, what the hell?
That sounds like some
yeah.
Holocaust.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, they put you in there with tear gas. So
oh my God.
it's to trust your equipment. So they
Okay.
give you a gas mask, and then you have to
You
stand.
have a gas mask on.
Yes.
I'm like, what the fuck?
But you have a gas mask, and then you have to take it off. And there's like a line of people in front of you that do it before you. So you have to sit there and watch them all do it, still not freak out inside,
Right.
like watching them cough, choke, and like shake their heads and all this stuff. You have to try to stay as still as you can, which is impossible.
How
And then
much are you feeling it, even though you have the equipment on?
Oh, you feel, well, at the time, you kind of feel it around your neck, like it starts to burn. And then when you step up and it's your time to take your mask off, then you have to sit there, try to stand as still as you can, and you have to say your name and what division you were in and like something else.
That's some crazy lab rat shit.
Yeah.
No offense, but
Well, we had to do that twice.
yeah.
So that was just in basic training, and then once I went to my actual school training for my job, we had to do it again, but they put more tear gas tablets on there. So in boot camp, it was only 1 tablet, and then in our schooling, it was 3, and they had a little fan that would blow it into your face.
Oh
to
my
make sure you
God.
get it.
So what was it? Just like you put your hand in like, what is the burning like?
It's kind of like having really, really bad sunburn. If you've been out in the sun and like your skin is literally just like radiating,
Yeah.
it kind of feels like that. Like, you know, like after you have a sunburn and you like scrape your arm or something like that, and you're like, ah.
Yeah.
Like that's what it feels like on your skin, which it's only on like the exposed part of your skin. So if you're wearing clothes, it's not as bad.
Okay.
But then as soon as it gets into your mouth, it's like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like, if you ever smell horseradish and like your sinuses just immediately like start, yep, it's like that times a billion, and your nose just immediately wants to like eject everything out of it.
And like your eyes and
Your eyes
right?
just immediately start watering. You can't see anything, so you're like they try to tell you to take a right and like walk out of there, and you're like, I have no idea where I'm going.
Oh my God.
They just trust you, and then they put you in like this big auditorium afterwards to like recover,
Right.
but you can still have it on you, so like you're like trying to like not breathe it in.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Oh, it was
I had
great.
no idea they did something like that.
Yeah, and it affects each person different. So for me, I coughed a lot more. It's really hard to catch your breath. You're like they tell you not to take big gulps of air, to take small, but when you're choking, you're like trying not to take, it's impossible to not take big gulps of air.
Right. You'd have to be pretty disciplined to try to think that and then not panic. And
it's a mental game. Like even after the second time I went in, I still couldn't get it down. Like
What other crazy, I guess, training experiences did you go through?
Well, we did do the firefighting training, which is cool.
That one was cool?
Yeah,
Okay.
Well, there's 2 of them. So there's the one in basic, which they like take you around this little building, and you have to like walk around, and you have to put the fire out, but it's like not a real fire, it's propane, so you don't actually know when it goes out.
Oh.
So it's like they control when it goes out. So but that one was cool. It's just that you're around a lot of people who don't know what they're doing yet, so it's like kind of chaotic. But then once I was in the fleet, then they actually take you to like advanced firefighting training, where it's an actual like concrete building, and they like literally just stick you in the basement, and they're like, go. And they're like, they like make fires like all around you with propane. You have to try to put it out. It's like 300 degrees in there. You're wearing like all your gear.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, you can do it. And you're like, no, I can't, I swear.
How many of you guys go in there at a time? Is it just one of you?
Well, you have to have at least a minimum of 3 people on the hose, and then there's usually like 4 or 5 after that because of the training.
Right.
So but you're usually wearing boots that are like too big for you, so you're trying to like walk around.
Yeah, so like waddling.
Yeah, you're like a little penguin waddling around. Like, it was fun.
Yeah.
So back to boot camp real quick. Are there, because I remember there being a pretty big controversy about women in the military and them passing the same kind of standards that men do. Is it the same?
No.
There's different standards?
So they have the men's standards and the women's standards, and then they also have age group standards for each of those.
Oh.
So like
really?
when you first join, you're in the, I think it's 18 to 22 or 18 to 20 group, and you have to do more than like, you know, someone who's say 30. They have like, I think 3 or 4 year age groups, and each one they give you more time to run, and they give you less push-ups to do and stuff like that. So they don't expect a 40-year-old to come in and do the same amount of push-ups as like an 18-year-old.
Right.
So.
But isn't that a little, I mean, aren't you doing the same job?
Basically, yeah. That's the thing I never got, is that they expect you to do the same thing and to be equals, but then the physical readiness test was not equal. So, like, I had to do 12 push-ups, my last one, to pass.
Seriously?
And I'm 23.
Okay.
I had to do 12 or 14 push-ups.
And how many did the men have?
And the men had to do, I think, a minimum of like 30.
Fuck.
So I was like, push-ups are not my game, but
yeah, I feel like
crunches are more my game, but but yeah, it was not equal for sexes at all.
Did you hear anything like that in the, like, was there any sort of discrimination that you felt?
Not really. I mean, when it came to certain things, so like for our job, a lot of it involved heavy lifting of equipment and stuff like that. So yeah, a lot of the times, like, you'd sit there and look at a 100-pound piece of equipment and you're like, yeah, I'm not carrying this by myself. There's no way. But most of the time, you know, it was mainly all just like lifting stuff and that type of thing. It wasn't really like endurance based or anything like that, which I guess is a good thing. I mean, I was on an aircraft carrier, and still that wasn't even far to roam around. So it was mainly like, for us, it was for our drills and stuff like that for firefighting. It was being able to stay on air and not panic during a situation. So it was about staying as calm as you possibly could, because you're breathing on this it's not oxygen, it's actually air, but you only have 45 minutes. So if you're panicking and you're breathing a lot heavier, you're gonna use up that air a lot faster. So even then, it wasn't even depending on the sexes, it was depending on how much you didn't panic.
And I guess that makes sense for that particular job. And as long as you could lift what you needed to lift, and you had that air control, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I just remember hearing a lot about that, like, kind of recently.
Yeah.
And people were concerned about it, so.
Well, yeah, and our job was mainly male dominant, and then for some reason, like, in the last year that I was there, they gave us like a lot more women. So all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like half the division was women, which is very rare in the Navy to begin with, because there's not even that many women in the Navy. So it was half the division was women, and then half of those ended up getting pregnant. But that's a whole other story.
What the fuck?
But
that's why they don't do. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, and that's the thing, is that we were in the shipyard, and everybody seemed to think that was the easy way out, unfortunately.
Oh, you're saying they used it to...
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, because these girls were not married. Like, most of them were not married. There was a few that did. They were married, and they had their child for the right reason. But some of them just thought that was the easy way out of getting out of what they didn't want to do.
Wow.
Yeah. Deployments are the same way. As soon as they hear, oh, we're going on a 7-9 month deployment, they're like, oh, well, I don't want to go, so let's just go find a man.
Way to make the women look good. Jeez.
Yeah, exactly. It makes us look bad. Like, come on. I'm sitting here working my ass off every day. I don't want to be seen like that.
I had a friend in the Marines purposely get caught with, like, weed so he can get out of it.
Oh, yeah. That was another thing, too.
And
that's the thing, is the Navy said that they had a 0 tolerance for drugs.
Yeah.
Yet I knew several people who, yeah, they would get kicked out, but they would get an honorable discharge.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't make sense.
Did get out.
I was like, if it's a 0 tolerance, then why are they getting an honorable discharge? It doesn't make sense. So, I don't know.
Interesting.
Hypocritical, but.
So you left boot camp, and then you don't go on a ship right away, right? Or do you?
Well, for me, I went to my basic school training, which for our job was only 45 days. So
Okay.
then right from there, I went to the ship.
And you were on that ship for how long?
4 years.
You were on it for the entire...
Yeah, the entire time.
Oh my lord, I am so sorry.
You didn't
My God.
dock and...
Well, yeah, no, we did dock and stuff like that.
Or
So
took a few days at a time?
yeah, well, I was stationed on that, but as soon as I got there, the first week I was there, we went on our first deployment. So that was 5 months. They had just gotten back from another deployment, which was 7 months, I think. So I had just picked them up right after that, and that was like unheard of in the Navy that you ever do back-to-back deployments like that.
Okay.
So, because usually the ship's falling apart by the end of the first one, so they have to go in the shipyards. But yeah, we went on our 5-month deployment over in the Persian Gulf, which was actually kind of cool and fun because at that time there wasn't really like
nothing wrong.
Yeah, there wasn't really that high threat level. I mean, there was the war in Iraq and all that stuff, but we weren't really participating in it. We were just kind of like a presence to make sure that anything didn't happen. So we got to pull into France on the way there, which was cool. The port that they stopped in, though, not a lot of people spoke English, so that was fun.
We were like French from high school, don't you?
Like 5 words. So that was great. And then we pulled into Bahrain and Dubai, which Dubai is like the most amazing place ever.
Yeah, how long did you spend there?
Usually we stop for like 4 to 5 days.
That's awesome.
So you still had time. One of those days you had to work, but the other days you could literally just come and go whenever you wanted, as long as you were on the ship by what time Liberty expired, which was usually like around 1 or 2 in the morning. So you have like the whole day to go and get sunburned and come back.
And feel it again in a gas chamber.
So it was just, it was Dubai. I always recommend if anybody wants a cool place to go in the world, go to Dubai. Yeah. Because there's so much stuff to do there, let alone so much cool architecture. Like they have the world's biggest building or tallest building. They have like this weird hotel thing. I can't remember the name of it. And just, they have the malls. They have like malls like everywhere.
Really?
They have the biggest mall in the world, which was insane. And then they have this other mall that has a ski slope in it.
What?
Just chilling in the middle of the mall. There's snow coming down, and there's
what the hell?
You can go skiing. Hey, it's 140 degrees outside, but we're gonna go skiing. It was crazy.
Oh my god.
So, and there's like Ferraris just driving down the street.
Yeah, aren't there taxis like Lambos or something like that?
Yeah, like you can find a taxi. Like, it's completely crazy.
Ballin' ass taxi.
Yeah.
Because that's a pretty rich part, right?
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, I don't know how far you have to go to get to, like, slums, but...
It's pretty much, like, right on the border.
That's kind of, that's kind of what I thought. Like, they really... You could just walk a mile and then...
They didn't purposely take us to that part of town because they weren't sure of security and stuff like that. Yeah. But yeah, it's like, right on the border.
So are you walking around in your dress, or are you just plain clothes?
Yeah, once you pass through the Mediterranean, they don't want you any affiliation with any kind of military. You're not allowed to even wear your belt or your boots or anything. So, because
you're not armed, right? You don't have anything like that.
No, you look like a tourist. That's
okay.
They let you off the ship as long as you have to make sure you're in appropriate attire. Like, they don't let you walk off in booty shorts, but but yeah, so it's all just fair game. You're literally just a tourist. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your living situation on the ship.
Oh, okay. Well, our first deployment, it was good because there was only 10 of us in one little berthing area. So it wasn't bad. But then they moved us into another berthing that had I want to say like 45 women in it.
So what kind of space is a berthing?
Okay, area? So a berthing, you have, think of like 3 beds stacked on top of each other, and then underneath those beds they lift up, and then you have basically like a 10 foot by 3 foot box underneath your bed that you can put all your clothes and all your stuff in. So
Okay.
anything that's in your life is in a 10-foot by 3-foot box that you sleep on.
Hey. Right.
So you better hope you narrow it down to the really good stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get all kinds of people from, you know, the cleanest, the most hygienic people you've ever seen in your life. You could like starch their sheets that they're so stretched out and they're beautiful, and then you get like people who don't even take a shower every 3 days, which is just
Come on.
I know.
oh yeah, that's just wonderful. And then you have to deal with your laundry too, so there's no place to put your laundry except for on the end of your rack, which is the appropriate place. But you get people that wait like 2 weeks, which it's 140 degrees there. You're sweating all day long, and then you put that dirty laundry in a laundry hamper on the end of your bed, and it's just.
Where do you fall on that category? Like what?
Oh no, I was right underneath the starched sheets. Like,
okay, all right. Cool.
I kept my sheets clean.
Awesome.
I didn't really stretch them out too much, but I was right underneath there. I made sure I stayed clean, and I had Febreze that would Febreze my rack every day. I was like, I don't want to even begin, because you have one person that smells, and it just carries throughout the whole.
How rude.
Like, you just tell them. I would be like, listen, okay, for the sake of everyone in this freaking place.
Well, that's the thing. Is like every week we had to have a meeting because somebody wasn't doing something. You think people have this common sense, like, you know, to brush your teeth every day, to take a shower every day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when your shirt is dirty, you need to change it. You think that people would have this kind of common sense, but they don't. You have to teach them how to.
That's why they joined the military.
And
Don't you know?
Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, I'm like, we all went through boot camp. They were very strict on boot camp.
I'm sure they were stricter in boot camp, too, right? Like
You think they would have adopted those things and, like, brought them with them.
People get lazy, though.
Yeah.
Especially when we're talking, like, 19-year-olds.
Well, yeah, these are people who haven't gone to college before. This is their first time out of the house.
Yeah, they used to their mom
that's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm. So, those are fun.
Well, I'm surprised, though, no superiors come in and say, like, you need to get your shit together.
That's what we had to do. Well, because you couldn't single anybody out.
Oh,
because then their feelings would be hurt.
Oh, my God.
Unless it got, like, really bad. So, they call it a health and comfort. If the person, like, if you walk past their rack and you could smell it, then they had to actually bring in the medical department, go through their rack, and, like, figure out what was smelling and, like, they have to, like, question them and be like, what was the last time you changed your sheets?
How embarrassing. I would be clean just to avoid that.
That's what people did. They made sure that they were clean so that way they wouldn't have to be embarrassed like that.
So when you say there's no single anyone out, what does that really, does that mean everything that you guys do?
Pretty much.
Because my cousin is in the Navy, and maybe it's different because he's a guy.
Yeah.
He said that they used to, like, fuck with him all the time.
Well, it depends on your division and how the atmosphere is. Our ship was basically made up its own rules. So they didn't really follow the Navy rules. It was the ship's rules. So our division, the way it was run, was they would try to, like, threaten you and say, oh, you know, if you don't get this done, then you're going to stay after. But it wasn't you're going to stay after. It turned out to be the entire division was going to stay after. And they thought that was going to, like, bring the camaraderie up. But it didn't. It ended up hurting the people that worked their asses off to get this shit done.
Right,
and then the slackers who don't end up continuing to get away with it. Yeah. So it didn't fix anything. Right. And it ended up just, there was no camaraderie at all in our division.
I never really understood that tactic because they're like in gym class or when you're in like a sport, someone didn't do something proper, and now the whole team's doing laps. Yeah. And everyone's pissed at that one person. Yeah. Like I get the idea behind it. You're supposed to be a team, you win together, you lose together, but at the same time, it was always the same person slacking off.
It's kind of, I'm a manager at this cafe, and I do have an employee, I'm not going to say who, that just fucks everything up. But it really brings the entire team down when they fuck up. So I think that maybe that's the reason why, like, your weakest link is defines how strong your team is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to
So-
punish, they're already
But there's no
being
punishment.
punished.
Yeah,
With-
not in that situation.
Well, yeah, with you guys, there's hardly
Right,
any
but in that
punishment.
situation, yeah, like I've been on sports. I've played sports, and that they do seem to do that. And really, you're right. We're just pissed at that
Yeah,
one person.
You're all
the
pissed
whole
at that one
time.
person. I mean, in boot camp, there was a little bit of that. Like, there was one girl who screwed up, and, like, she was sitting there struggling to, like, finish her because for punishment, they make you do just physical workouts and stuff like that.
Which
she
is
was
horrible.
Yeah, so she was struggling to finish, so, like, everybody, like, went around her, and, like, you know, we all did it together.
Oh, okay.
So
that's good. I think
Yeah.
that would really raise morale.
So that did bring us kind of together, but then their mentality in the fleet was completely different because it was all work based. So it was like, if you don't get your work done, then you're working through dinner. For our division, we didn't get off work until like 8 or 9 at night. So the guys who like to go out to the gym and all that stuff, they would do that during lunch and dinner. So if you cut into their workout time, oh boy.
Oh, yeah.
The whole world, because that's the only thing you have to do out there.
Right.
Like work out and like watch TV. So that's the only two things that you really can do.
Dang.
So it's like when you cut into somebody's only free time, they start to get pissed.
I guess that makes sense because you realize that if they do cut into that time, you can't do shit anymore.
Yeah, and that's
You're
my
done.
thing is like you use positive reinforcement at least.
Well,
That's what I would do when I was in charge. I had my own shop that I was in charge of. It was like 10 people, and I didn't like to sit there and cut people's time, but if I had to, then it was that person's time, not the whole shop's time. I was like, if you didn't get your maintenance done, then it was your fault and you're going to get it done during lunch.
Okay.
It's not going to be, oh, everybody has to do there. Like,
Yeah, I think that's a better tactic for sure.
I think so too, because that way, now this person is missing out. Everyone else gets to go in and do their own thing, and you're stuck here
Yeah.
rather than everyone else suffering with you.
So are we agreeing with the singling someone out as a positive
And
thing? It's a
especially
good
in the
thing.
military, that kind of surprises me.
Yeah.
That we're babying people.
oh, it got so soft from the time I got there to the time I left. It just, everything was so soft. I was so surprised. I was expecting like structure and discipline. I didn't see any of that.
A lot of my family members are in the military, or they were, and they just constantly talk so much shit about how soft the new strategies, the way they do things are now. It's so funny.
Yeah, all the guys that had been there for years were talking about the old Navy and the way the old Navy used to be, and like even just recently they tried to take the word man out of everyone's rate, so that way for me I was a damage control man.
Right.
Okay, it's a damage controlman.
Right.
They were like, well, that's sexist because it has the word man in it. I was like, the word woman has man in it.
It really does.
So
means
you
you're
kind of
human.
can't get away from it. So
Human.
So they like try to like go that route, and then they tried to just get rid of rating titles altogether. So like my job title wouldn't be my job title anymore. It would just be like how Army is, like infantry.
Yeah.
It would just be generalized. But you can't do that in the Navy because on a ship you have all these different jobs that make it the way it is. You can't get rid of job titles and be like, oh, we're just gonna, cross train whenever you can. Like, we couldn't even have time to do our own job, let alone go and learn somebody else's.
Did the Navy and the Marines ever work together? I know that they trained together at some point. Okay. How does that work?
Well, there's certain ships. So I was on an aircraft carrier, so we didn't really see the Marines as much. But they call them amphibs, and the Marines bring on like their helicopters and all their crazy equipment and stuff like that, and they specifically work off those ships.
Okay.
So like for us, it was all Navy, but for them, they basically look like an aircraft carrier, but they're a little bit smaller.
Okay.
And they mainly focus on those. Like a couple of people I used to work with used to tell horror stories about working with the Marines and how terrible it was being on a ship with them because you get a bunch of guys who, it's not their job to maintain the ship. It's the Navy's guys.
So they're just fucking shit up.
They basically don't have anything to do all day. Like, what else is there to do besides sit there and watch TV and eat? Like,
and work out.
Yeah, those are the three things they can do. So
what type of aircrafts did you usually have I guess what I'm asking is, did those type of aircrafts have the ability to drop any bombs?
Oh, yeah.
That's what they were?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we, the first deployment, they didn't really do much because there wasn't that threat I was telling you about. But then the second deployment we went on, it was a lot more crazy with like Syria and like all that stuff. So they went through ammunition like crazy. They had all the fighter jets on there, and then there's these cool prop planes that have like radar on them that can like drive around. It's really cool. And then they obviously have helicopters and the usual.
Probably more scouting helicopters.
Yeah, the helicopters would always go out before flight ops and make sure like that there was nothing crazy going on.
Okay.
But.
And how much were you guys aware of what was going on with those kind of operations? I mean, they probably can't tell you too much.
No.
I would imagine. But...
Most of it, our captain would come on every day and like tell us where we were at least, or like generalize, like, oh, we're in the Persian Gulf. Like, okay, well that's kind of big. So. Or like sometimes he'd tell us like where we were off the coast of sometimes. Okay. And he would sometimes tell us like, you know, oh, like the guys went and dropped bombs on Syria today or whatever it was.
Just all casual about it.
Or
dropped
like
a bomb today, guys.
Most of the time he would tell us like, oh, we're supporting the ground troops and that type of stuff. So it was that type of information. It wasn't anything really specific unless a couple times, I think one time last deployment, there was a ship. It wasn't even a ship. It was like a little tiny boat that broke free and the engine broke. So there were like these people just like floating in the middle of the Persian Gulf that were like stranded. So we actually had to go pick them up and like help them out and stuff like that.
Heck?
So that one he did tell us, he's like, well, if you see some new people walking around the ship, they don't know any English, so.
And then what'd you do with them? Did you have to drop them off somewhere?
Yeah, they were constantly under surveillance, but there are these planes that basically are like airplanes that they can fly on and off the ship, so they just like flew them off to the closest air base, but.
Yeah, that's kind of sketchy, right?
Yeah. But yeah, most of the time he was pretty honest. I mean, obviously he couldn't get specific, but
right.
Yeah,
so
like
there
you
weren't,
find
like,
stuff.
briefings.
No, you find stuff out. Our job wasn't to know any of that stuff, so we never really did. But like our officers and stuff like that were in our division, they would hear stuff from other officers and they let us know. So.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it wasn't really like too secretive, but at the same time it was enough to know at least where you are and what's kind of going on.
Right. Did you like that, or was it like? I mean, I would always want to know what is going on all the time.
Yeah, definitely. The first deployment, I didn't even really notice, I think, because it was all brand new. And
so like, I was tripping out the whole time.
Yeah, I was more or less just fascinated what the heck was going on around me. But then the second deployment, I was a lot more aware of what was happening around us because they would have the news on and CNN on all the time. So the CNN was telling us what was going on sometimes, and we were like, okay. Like,
and then you're like in the middle of all that.
Yeah.
So like, there's some shit cracking and.
So we would be like, I was more terrified the second deployment. Like I would go to sleep at night, and I'm like, I'm honestly terrified to close my eyes because I don't know what the heck's going on out there.
Right.
Like, you're an aircraft carrier, you can't really hide it. So
and
I was
gonna
be targeted. You guys get taken down. First.
I mean, in World War II, that's how it started. Japan tried to attack all the aircraft carriers, but luckily none of them were in port.
Right.
But still, like, that's what people want to target, and unfortunately, that's what I was on. So.
And that second deployment, wouldn't that have been during the election process?
Yeah, we left.
That must have been so weird.
We left, actually, right before my birthday, so it was in June of last year.
Okay.
And then I got flown off in the middle of it.
So. Right around then.
Yeah, it was intense, to say the least.
When did you get out of the Navy? I'm sorry.
I got out in September.
Oh, just super recent.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like years ago, like 3 or 4 years ago.
No, yeah. So that was weird. And then like right after I left was that whole big scare about like Russia's fighter jet that came really close to the destroyer.
Yeah.
And then one of the destroyers in our fleet, you go over there, you don't just go over there with an aircraft carrier. Like you go over there with destroyers and all this other supply ships and stuff like that. So one of the other destroyers that was in our fleet was the one that was getting attacked by
What the hell?
some rebels in Syria. Like, it was like there's this one little channel that you go through the Red Sea, and then you go through the Suez Canal. Well, like right in that Red Sea area, there's land on either side of you.
So you're just surrounded.
Yeah, you're surrounded, but you can only trust that the governments over there
are doing good.
Yeah, controlling. So, yeah, when I heard about that destroyer, it was right after I left. So I was like freaking out. I'm like, oh my god.
You probably got out at exactly the right time, honestly.
Yeah.
Because things are, I don't think they're going to get better
No.
at this point, so.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, that was good timing.
Yeah. Well, I'm still in active reserves for the next 3.5 years.
I was gonna say, so they could just hit you up.
Yeah. Well, they'll call the ready reservists first, and then they'll call me, and then they'll do the draft. So.
Right. Well, hopefully it's not going to get to that point, but
I
I
hope
don't
not.
know. Things are tense, it seems.
Yes.
So you had a rank, right?
Mhm.
What was your rank, if you don't mind me
I
asking?
was a petty officer 2nd class.
Okay, cool.
So I was just basically I was the one that got shit on all the time because, you know, like the higher ups would basically look to you to tell all the younger guys what to do.
Right. So if you didn't,
or if they screwed up, then they'd still yell at you. So
right. Where does chief petty officer lie?
that's 2 above me.
Okay.
Yeah. So in 4 years, I managed to make 2nd class, and then if I stayed in another year, I probably could have made 1st. And then you have to wait another, I think, 2 or 3 years after that to try for chief.
Okay, because I know my uncle was like senior chief.
Oh, okay.
Whatever the.
That's 3 above mine. Yeah.
Yeah, that.
Yeah. Once you get into senior and master, those are the.
One of them's called Master.
Yeah.
Whoa.
He gets 2 stars.
2 stars. My uncle was just this. He was in the Navy forever, and then I remember when he would come visit, might have been like 4 from the ages of 4 to 18, I was gonna join the Marines because he was like, you're gonna be an officer, this is what you're gonna do, and I was set, you know, a recruiter and all that, but after I graduated early and started traveling through California and just having a lot of fun, I disappointed the shit out of him. You know, I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this because I found a passion.
Well, yeah, that's good.
But he wasn't having it. That's another story for another time. But so I know a little bit about the military.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to hear it from someone closer to my age rather than like this really old dude that's like drunk and just says, "Join the military, it's good for you."
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Yeah,
So.
I'm sure back in his time it was much different too. Like even when he first joined, it was a whole other military. They even in boot camp they had these cards that would restrict what the they called them RDCs, the people that were in charge of training us. It was a card that restricted what exercises they were allowed to make us do. Because right before I got there was a kid who mysteriously had a heart attack in the middle of one of his physical tests.
Oh my god.
So they were like, okay, well, we're just going to generalize what the punishments can be. And they like put it down. You can only do like 45 push-ups at a time or something like.
So you don't die, basically.
Yeah.
Or
well,
an accident.
Even then, but like the kid that passed away, it was like a fluke accident. They had no idea.
Oh, okay.
He must have had a pre-existing something.
He had a pre-existing something, but they had no idea. Like there was no way that you could have tell. So it really had nothing to do with what he was doing at the time. It was just that happened to be the time that he dropped.
Dang. Yeah.
So it was when I got to boot camp, and they used to tell horror stories about. They called it an ice cream party, and they would take an ice cream tub and put it in the middle of the floor, and everybody in the division had to keep working out until the ice cream melted all the way.
Oh my god.
So that would be like horror stories that they would tell you about, and then I was fearing and dreading that day, and then all of a sudden I found out I was like,
this
not even possible because they have these little cards that make me can't do it anymore.
So my uncle would
12 push-ups.
Right. So he would tell me crazy stories of when he was, and just to prepare me, and they were insane stories. I don't know if you went the almost drowning process or anything like that.
Oh no.
Yeah, I remember that was like a big thing that
I was gonna say, I feel like in the Marines they go through more of that. Like for us, they just make sure we know how to float and we know how to swim back and forth.
I'm not gonna say this is true, but I know I'm pretty sure he said he trained with a lot of Marines when he was younger. So he joined when he was like 17, 18.
Oh, okay.
And then he stayed till he was like 50, and then he retired.
Oh.
But I know that like he said that Marines were, so maybe he was on that other ship.
Yeah, the amphib.
Yeah, because he said that like that's where I was gonna be if I joined or something.
Oh, okay.
Like that. But
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
this shit is crazy.
Even just in the Navy, the weapons handling, like we didn't have. We had 2 days. The first day was all pneumatic guns, so we didn't even get real ammunition or a real gun. It was just, all right, this is how to shoot, and they taught us how to like aim. And then
that's it, right?
Yeah, and then that was with a 9mm. And then the second day, they put an actual gun in your hand, 24 rounds, and they're like, all right, do this shooting test. And we were like, okay. So I had previous gun experience, so like I knew how to like aim and shoot and all that stuff. Yeah. But like other people had never even seen a gun before in their life. So then you're just putting a gun in their hand and they're like waving it around and they're like,
that's what you did.
I did not.
I took them to a shooting range for the first time because they'd never gone. So I took her and Rachel and G. And they were like holding it all crazy. It was a rifle.
That was fine.
It was a semi-automatic, but it was.
But yeah, that's the thing is like we never touched a rifle the whole time. They gave us that shooting test, and then at the end of it, they gave us like 2 rounds and a shotgun. I was like, what is a shotgun gonna do on a ship? Like
for real? Like you know how big that thing is?
Yeah. So like that was the only experience with guns. We never did any tactical kind of training in the Navy at all.
Do you see that? Did you ever encounter a situation where it would have come in handy, or have you never? Oh, okay. I figured.
No.
Yeah.
With us, I mean, at least you think they would have taught us like self-defense. Like in case we were in like a port and we had to defend ourselves. And some
pirates came on.
People see us and see that we're a target. At least being a tourist, you're a target. Yeah. So you think that they would at least have taught us self-defense, but no.
They never did. That's crazy. I think that's like an important.
Yeah, because I know the Marines training is a lot longer than ours. Ours was only 8 weeks.
So okay.
And I think the Marines was 14, and I'm not sure how long the Navy is.
Isn't it like I don't even know. I don't know.
Yeah, and the Army's is I think around the same time, but I'm not 100% sure. Okay. But yeah, the Navy's was 8 weeks, but still I graduated early at like 7.
Oh wow.
So because they pushed us as fast as we could to get through because it was right around the holiday season.
Oh okay.
So
tell us a little bit about stereotypes of the different branches, if you know any of those.
Stereotypes. Yeah. Well, Marines were always like the meatheads.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, you know, they're just like tough and they know how to fight, and that's pretty much it. Army, we didn't really deal with any other kind of branches. Well, Air Force, we nicknamed the Chair Force.
Oh, the Chair Force? Ouch.
We never really dealt with them.
They
and like, I know their boot camp was way more lax than ours was. They got to use their cell phones in boot camp. I'm like, if you ever even heard of a phone in our boot camp, you immediately got sent out. Like, and never got saw again. Like,
oh my gosh.
The screeching noise in the background was like there, and you're like, don't get caught. So, yeah, we didn't really work a lot with the other branches, like, because all the flight ops and everything like that was the Navy's flight op, like pilots and stuff like that. So.
Oh, those were Navy pilots?
Yeah, they were Navy pilots. Most of them had like gone through the officer program. Well, all of them have gone through the officer program, so they were all officers. They had trained and all that stuff. So
they've been around the block a few times.
Yeah.
Was the ship that you were on actually outfitted with any guns or any defensive, even if you had to? Okay, there were measures in place in case you were being attacked.
Yeah, there was definitely defensive measures, and obviously we had the planes, so they could defend us as well. And then there's always other ships around that also defend. So, I mean, people could find us, whether they could actually try to attack is a whole other story. So.
Right. Did you ever run into any other countries' vessels or anything out there? Or was it pretty much,
yeah. A lot of times, because you're in the middle of the Persian Gulf, so you can you just look out, and sometimes every once in a while you see another ship going by. Or
isn't that nerve-wracking? I feel like
it is a little.
Who is that? What are they doing?
Yeah. But like for us, we wouldn't know. So if we assumed if there is a ship that close, then it's not gonna do anything, because if if there was a threat, then they would either steer away, or you would hear like the flight ops like kick in and they'd go all crazy and fast. And
so was there like an emergency procedure, like you had to go to a certain place and do a certain thing?
oh yeah. So they had like different condition levels for depending on what was going on. So whether like it would be like a fire that got out of control, they would bump it from like a condition 1 to condition 2, where more people would have to get involved and that type of thing. Or if there was a threat, then they would called general quarters. If you've ever seen any Navy movie, there's this like ringing bell and they go, general quarters, man your battle stations. Like
man your battle station.
Watch Pearl Harbor. It's actually on Pearl Harbor.
Okay.
So
I have to listen for that now.
Yeah. So and then everybody like gets their little flash hood and their gloves on, and that's the basic defense.
Oh.
I mean, it's literally gonna not do anything.
I was gonna say what,
but you have to like button up your coveralls. You have to tuck your boots in, like your socks in your boots and all that stuff. So then everybody they have these things called repair lockers all throughout the ship, and that's basically where all of our equipment for Damage Controlman would be throughout the ship. So, because obviously, like when there's a fire, you need a bunch of equipment to put it out, and you can't just have it laying around. So we would have these repair lockers where we would keep like the hoses and the boots and helmets and all that stuff. So we had 10 of them all throughout the ship, and when there's a general quarters drill, everybody on the ship had an assigned repair locker to go to.
Okay.
So you had 5,000 people going to all of their repair lockers, and each of them were trained in specific jobs on what to do. So if there was any kind of threat of like a ship getting close, then they would put us in general quarters so that way we were ready to go.
Okay.
So,
but were you on high alert ever or anything like that?
Yeah, every once in a while they would tell us when we would go through like the channels and stuff like that. We'd go through like the canals. We'd always be on like higher alerts. Especially being Damage Controlman, they would always kind of tell us whenever we would be in a situation like that, so that way we'd be prepared or close to a repair locker. When we did ammunition movements, like they would bring on ammunition on the ship, we would always have to like man a certain place in case there was anything that happened. So they would try to inform us as much. Like usually we would be the first people to know, but most of the time, if it was like a spur of the moment thing, they just have to announce it.
Okay.
So you have to be ready at all times.
So you worked 5 days a week? Is that right? No.
It's 24/7. Well, when you're on the ship, for us, right after when you're on a deployment, you're basically on call and at working 24/7.
Right.
Especially being our job, if there was a fire or a flood or anything at any time of the day or night, we would have to go to it. So we were always on call. So except for on deployments, sometimes we'd have to work on Sundays, sometimes we wouldn't. Sometimes they give us like half a Sunday off, and that would be our free day.
Oh, splendid.
But other than that, you would wake up at 6, go to work at 7, and then for us, we would work probably until 7 or 8 at night. And then do it all again the next day, and then the next day. And they'd usually give us like 2 hours for lunch, so 2 hours for dinner, so at least we had like time to chill.
Yeah.
Right.
But
because it sounds exhausting.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing I couldn't do anymore. It was the hours. Right. It was like, oh yeah, let's work until 8 o'clock at night, and then there's a flooding, so
you're up.
You're up for another 3 hours trying to get that done, and then finally you have to take a shower because you don't know what the heck was in that water. And then where we slept was right in front of the emergency generators, so if something happened on the ship, then the generators would kick on, and that's like right next to your head.
Oh Lord!
It's like a generator the size of this room kicks on. You're gonna hear it.
I can't imagine sleeping well at all on those.
Well, now I can sleep through anything. Like at my apartment, it's too quiet.
That's right. You must be so. It's a luxury.
Oh yeah.
No silence.
But but when we weren't on deployment, we would work 5 days a week, and it was up to whatever we had to do. So we were in the shipyards for 2 years fixing whatever the heck broke on deployment. So those hours were longer. But then once we got out of the shipyards, we would go in and out of sea all the time. So we go out for like 30 days, come back for like a couple weeks. Go out for 30 days, come back. And it was just constant back and forth.
So when was this? In between deployments?
Yeah.
Okay.
So first deployment, we got there 5 months. Right after that, like the next month, we went to the shipyards, and that was for 2 years. And then we got out of the shipyards, and then we're just in and out, in and out, in and out. And then in June of that year, we went out for the second deployment.
June of was what 2015 or
16?
16? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you left in September from the ship? Was the ship still on deployment?
Yeah, the ship was still on
okay.
deployment. They flew me off to Bahrain, and then we went on a military flight from Bahrain to Greece, Greece to Italy, Italy to Spain, Spain to France, France to America.
Damn.
Took like 23 hours.
How long were you in Bahrain?
We were only in Bahrain, I think, for 2 days, but we had just had a port call in Bahrain for like 4 days, and they left us behind.
Oh.
So they were like, oh, hey, you guys are all leaving in the next week, so we'll just leave you behind. And I was like, okay, sure. But they literally had no idea what the heck was going on. So we were literally told, just stay in your hotel room, and then we'll call you whenever we leave.
Yeah,
So
I don't know if I'd be leaving my hotel room in Bahrain.
I mean, Bahrain it's just all sand. There's nothing else to do there.
A plane to sand.
There's a nice base where they have like a movie theater and like,
Yeah.
you know, like places to shop and stuff, but for the most part, it's just sand.
Yeah.
So I didn't really know the places to go. My friend Carrie had lived there for 2 years, and I didn't really think to call her and ask her like
She's
what
been
to
out
do.
there, right?
Yeah, she was living there for 2 years. Right now, she's on her way to Guam. Yeah.
What does she do?
She's a Navy police officer.
Okay.
So her job's a little bit more fun.
Yeah. What's a beer day?
Oh,
Sorry, a beer
day.
day.
Yeah, beer
What did
day.
you say the first time?
I don't know, I just didn't enunciate properly. So I just wanted to say it again.
Beer.
Beer day?
Beer. So if the ship's out for more than, I think it's either 45 or 65 days without a port call, then they're obligated to give us a beer day, which they fly out a bunch of beer on the ship.
Oh no.
And then they give us beer, but they ration it down to 2 beers per person.
Oh.
And you have to like come with your ID and like show proof of who you are. And it's 140 degrees, and they have it on the flight deck on a place that has black tar on the surface. So you're like 140 degrees, 2 beers. Yeah, this sounds great. Like,
Here's your warm-ass beer.
At first it was a lot of fun, and now it's just...
I mean, it is cool because, you know, you at least get like some time to chill and do nothing. They usually have like these big grills, and they like grill out and stuff.
Okay.
But then you still have to wait like an hour in line to get food because you have 5,000 other people trying to all eat from the same 2 lines.
Oh
like,
my god.
And then you're still sweating your butt off because it's 140 degrees, and they're like, "Oh, you could wear shorts." I'm like, "Yeah, because shorts is gonna help." Like,
Right. Do they limit you to 2 beers because there's so much equipment around you that you need to be very careful?
Yeah.
And they could call for any, you know.
yeah. Well, that's
Okay,
the thing
that
with
makes
our
sense.
job too. They weren't even gonna let us do the beer day because they're like, "Oh, well, you could be on call, and there could be a fire at any time. We can't afford
That's
to have
true.
you drunk." And I'm like. And then my chief was like, "No, we are getting our beer. There's no question about it."
2 beers. You can fight a fire on 2 beers.
Yeah.
I mean, but if you don't drink for so long, your
Yeah,
tolerance,
true.
Yeah.
you know.
Well, you're dealing with a bunch of sailors. A lot of them, their tolerance is still pretty high.
I'm actually kind of surprised at how much shit my friend who's in the Marines gets away with. I like don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
He'll Snapchat me doing crazy shit at the base.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck?
We went underway for 30 days, and there was a couple kids who had stayed behind because of some reasons, and they sent us all out an email one day with a bunch of license plate of cars, because, you know, people leave their cars there while we're underway. And they're like, "Oh, if you own any of these cars, please contact so-and-so." Well, we found out one of those kids that left behind got drunk, and at 2 a.m. hit 4 cars and then hit a light post, and like that came down and smashed another guy's car.
Oh my god.
So they were like, "Well, if you own any of these cars, they're being impounded." And I'm like, "That sucks."
Oh shit.
Because then you're gonna have to pay 30 days worth of impound fees.
Yeah, which is a lot.
Yeah,
That's
so
a lot.
That kid, whoever it was, his insurance is going through the roof.
Yeah, he
like,
probably isn't driving right now. Honestly.
no. So, and that's the thing is if you get in trouble in the military, you don't just get in trouble in the civilian world, you get in trouble in the military world
Which is
too.
crazier, no? Or
Well, usually for us, they would put you on restrictions. So that means you get stuck on the ship for anywhere from 30 to 45 days straight. Like, you cannot step on land. And you have to come and muster at a certain place at a certain time, like 7 times a day. You have to eat with the restricted people, which are there's like 30 of them.
It must be fun.
They have to go and work when they're not working their regular work hours. They have to go and clean other people's spaces, and they're just constantly under watch.
Yeah,
People will come in and make sure that they're in their rack by a certain time.
That sounds horrible. Actually, that doesn't sound worth it at all. No.
And that's the thing is like, and they'll still take money from you. So like, if you will go out in town and get a DUI, it's already more expensive in town getting a lawyer and all that stuff. Then you have to deal with the Navy side where they're gonna dock your pay if you get a DUI.
Oh wow.
So they're gonna cut your pay in half for like 2 months, 3 months sometimes. So yeah, it's just. That's why I kept myself under wraps while I was there, because I'm like, you are not taking any of my money.
Yeah, for real. So when you were in other countries, did you ever go out, like, for fun?
Yeah.
What's a crazy time, if you don't mind telling us?
Well, I wasn't usually the crazy one.
Okay.
I was the one taking care of the crazy ones.
Okay.
They all called me Mom.
Oh.
So my nickname was Mom. But my one friend, Lily, oh my gosh.
Lily.
She knew how to party.
You should probably use some code names.
I know, for real.
Well, they go by last names in the military, so nobody
Okay,
knows
good.
what last name.
Fair enough.
But, oh boy, she knew how to party, and when I first met her, it was on the ship, so, like, you know, I didn't know she was a partier or anything like that. So when we went out in town, she's like, oh, do you want to be my Liberty Buddy? Because you have to go out with certain people. Like, you have to go out with a certain number of people in order to leave the ship. So that way it's their security of knowing you're always with somebody.
How many people?
If you're through the Mediterranean Sea, it's 3 people. If you're in the Mediterranean Sea, like France or Portugal or any of those ports, it's only 2.
Okay.
So, and it also depends on your pay grade. So if you're a younger, lower pay grade, usually it's 3, and then if you're more higher pay grade, it's 2.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So when I met Lily and she was like, oh yeah, let's go out, and I was like, okay, sure, like, and I said I would be the designated non-drinker. I was like, all right. I didn't think she was gonna, go too crazy. Well, I lost her for like 2 hours. Oh my
God, what do you mean?
She ran, this base is very small, but I was like, all right, I just have to go to the bathroom and I'll be right back. And then it was all hell broke loose. Like, I couldn't find her for like a good 2 hours, and you don't have phones over there. Like, there's no way of communicating.
So what would you do?
So I literally just walked around, because there was like this area where they were selling beer. And so I like walked around the area because I was like, I know she's got to be around here somewhere. And then sure enough, I found out she had gone off base, found a bar, ended up buying the whole bar shots.
Oh my God, Lily.
Like 3 or 4 times. And then my chief ended up finding her and bringing her back to base. And then I ended up just finding her there, and she was so drunk she couldn't even walk.
Oh,
so me and this other girl had to carry her onto the bus to get her back to the ship. I had just gotten something that day, so I luckily had a bag with me, and I like took all the clothes out of the bag. I was like, oh my God, please just keep this in front of your face. She threw up like 3 times on the bus. And usually when you see everybody on the ship sees like somebody else carrying another person, they just let them cut through the lines.
Oh yeah,
because you have to like go through metal detectors and all that stuff to get back on the ship.
That's cool, at least.
So we were carrying her, like, she's hunched over, like, not even coherent. And so luckily they let us cut through all the lines, and they say as long as she could sign her name on the log, like just log back in, then she was fine and she wasn't getting in trouble. So she was able to like just barely like make a scribble. What? And we ended up getting back, and I made sure there was a bucket next to her rack when we got back, because she was on the bottom floor, so she didn't have to go far.
Yeah, okay, good.
Well, the next day, I woke up, and there was something on the floor, and I'm like,
oh, no.
I was like, what is this? Well, in the middle of the night, she thought she went to the bathroom.
No!
But she didn't. So she sat down in one of our chairs and peed on the chair.
Oh, my God!
And left a puddle around herself.
Oh, my God.
And we were like, no!
Who cleaned it?
She had to.
Okay.
That was her response. She had to take the chair out. We threw the chair out. There was no keeping that chair.
Yeah.
And there would just, after a port call, there would just be throw up all over the ship. You walk into corners, bathrooms, there would just be stuff everywhere. So, because people just went crazy and like ham, like
binge. I would binge drink too. Honestly,
yeah, they
can't like so.
But that's so wild to me that that's happening on the military shit.
Well, they tried to like keep it under wraps, but you
get 5,000 people.
You can't go too crazy.
I know, but to not have any repercussions as long as you can sign your name, that's so crazy.
Some people, like, if you lose your Liberty Buddy, like, if you come back to the ship without your Liberty Buddies, then you're automatically on restriction for the next port.
I was gonna say, because wouldn't you be in a shit ton of trouble if you lost your buddy?
Yeah.
Like, you're responsible for each other, from what I've been told.
Yeah, like, when I lost Lily, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm dead. I'm gone. No way. Like,
so you didn't get in trouble?
No, okay, I didn't technically get in trouble, because with the way that whole area is in Bahrain, there's the base, and then right outside the base is, they call it American Alley, and they just have like a bunch of American restaurants and stuff. So that's where she was, and then she came back to the base.
Okay.
So technically we weren't too far away from each other.
Luckily.
But our chief didn't tell anybody, so he was cool with it. Awesome. But yeah, if you lose your buddy, then you're on restriction the next port call. So depending on how bad the situation is that you got into in town, you could just not even leave the ship the next port call. Yeah. So you're stuck on the ship for another 45 days until you can finally go out.
Dang.
And then sometimes you have to find like a chief or like people who are like at least 3 pay grades above you to take you off the ship with you. So that's just like
you get escorted.
Yeah, literally you get escorted, and those are your Liberty Buddies, and you're like, yeah, how much fun can I have?
I know, for real, they're just gonna watch you the whole time.
Yeah. Well, that was my thing that I didn't get, was that we're in these cool foreign places. I'm like, why do you want to see a bar?
For real.
Yeah.
I understand one night you want to go out, but we went to Portugal, we went to France, we went to Italy.
Yeah, that's
like,
awesome.
Why do you want to go and see a bar? I can see a bar at home. They would go to like the American taverns. Why?
Maybe they miss home so much. But
yeah, but still, I don't want to see a bar every single night.
You sound like the very rare one chick in the group that just does not, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
This is
people don't appreciate those kind of opportunities.
Yeah.
And not many people get to take those trips to those kinds of places.
Yeah.
I would run away. And just stay. If I found a place that I really liked, I would not come back, and then I'd probably
just be a deserter.
Yeah, I'll get arrested.
The punishment for that is pretty severe.
Oh,
I don't know, but
yeah, it is. It's pretty good. Actually, one of the guys I used to work with is now in charge of finding deserters. So he sits behind a computer all day and like looks up like people's Facebooks.
He's like the NSA, man.
Yeah, it's cool.
That is pretty cool.
That's super cool.
He's like, yeah, we caught this guy today. I'm like, oh yeah. He's been on the run for 5 years.
Holy shit.
I bet it is a lot of social media that he ends up finding them.
It's a lot of social media.
Yeah, that is stupid.
That's hilarious.
Oh yeah, people are dumb when it comes to social media.
People are dumb in general, but it's a
well,
whole
that
too.
So, do you miss it at all?
No.
Oh, okay, why?
Well, the only thing that I miss is the ability to talk to anybody at any time. You were never bored on the ship. At least I wasn't too bored. I mean, there's a point where you're like, okay, I can only talk to these people so many times. Right. But there was always somebody to talk to. So, like, you could walk down the hallways and you'd be like, oh, hey, what's up? There was people everywhere. So if you were bored, you literally just walked out of your shop and you're like, oh, okay, there's like 12 people to talk to. But that's like the only thing that I miss, because like now I'm living in an apartment with me and my cat, so I talk to my cat a lot. He talks back sometimes, but
and everyone's looking to talk to someone on that ship, I'm assuming. But like coming back to New York, it's like it's kind of hard to make talk to a random stranger.
Well, yeah, you can't just walk down the street and like,
hey, let's have a conversation.
Trustworthy.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing, is like you could trust anybody on that ship.
Right.
You can trust them to a point, but like so you can strike up a conversation and know that they're somebody that you can talk to.
Right.
So it's not like here, like at school, I'm like, I don't know who these people are. Like, I don't know who you are. Like, it was hard enough to try to like get my friends back from when I was before I joined the military, because that was just, it's awkward to begin with, because you're like, I'm sorry I haven't talked to you in 4 years, but I'm back.
I'm here, so let's be friends again.
Yeah.
Or continue on. Like, there was a good pause.
Yeah. But, like, that's how it was with you. Like,
Yeah.
it was just, I'm sorry, I know I haven't talked to you in a while, but
But
like,
I think people understand. I mean,
Yeah.
you kind of...
for the most part, people have been very understanding lately, and I've been, like, slowly getting my friends back, and, like, because when I first got back, I didn't know what to do with myself. Like,
Right. What did you do when you first got back?
I moved in with my parents.
Ah, how's that?
That was great.
I'm sure they miss you and...
Yeah, they did, and I felt like I needed to, spend that time with them all
Yeah.
the time. But then I realized, like, that was all I was doing, was spending time with my parents, and, like, I still felt an obligation to them because I was using their house, I was staying in their house, so it's like, and you're not just gonna, like, come and go as you please at your parents.
Right.
So I still wanted to respect their boundaries, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm so used to living and controlling myself that it's weird to have them in it again.
Yeah.
Like, I just had to grow up for the last 4 years, and now I feel like I'm back to, like, high school. So it wasn't bad, but that's the reason why I had to move out. I think I moved out 5 months after I got back because I just couldn't do it anymore.
Right.
It was just, I could not go back to those, like, teenage years of living with them. It was just, I needed to be on my own, have my own responsibilities. The bills suck, but...
So, you just got your apartment recently then?
Just a couple months ago.
Where, I guess I shouldn't ask you where. Probably people listening are gonna
She's
stop
close
you.
by.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm close.
So
I don't think anyone's gonna stalk me. I mean, they could stalk my cat if they wanted.
Right.
I do want to do that.
So do you work now, or like what is?
Well,
What's
actually,
your plans?
yeah,
Yeah,
right
what's
now I'm at ECC,
Cool.
going for emergency management. It's like planning for disasters and
Right,
all that
which
stuff.
you already know about.
Yeah, which is like the same thing that I just
Yeah.
did. And I actually just got accepted and hired at M&T
Awesome.
as a teller.
Sweet.
So
Cool.
yeah, I'm so
Congratulations.
excited. I start there in a couple weeks.
Nice.
And yeah, it was like the day I got accepted, I literally cried because I was like, this is weird. I was like, the problem was that when I left, when I told everybody that I was leaving the military, like the people that I worked with, they were like, oh, the real world's so hard. You're not going to survive. You're going to come crawling back to us. And they just kept putting you down like all the time. And they're like, the real world is so tough and you're not going to make it. And I was like, okay, well, that was my motivation to do it.
Yeah.
So when I got that call from M&T and they said that I got hired, I was just so happy. I didn't know what else to do because that was like my suck it moment.
Right.
You can all go suck it. I survived.
Yeah.
I have a job that has benefits. I'm going to school and getting it paid for. Like, you can go suck it.
Do you pay for school right now, or does the military pay for
The military pays for it.
See, that's a good perk. At least.
Yeah. Well, now New York State apparently is going to pay
Right,
for everyone's.
right.
But yeah, they pay my my tuition, and then they also pay me to live out in town. So
I was gonna say they pay for your rent and all that too. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they only
Cool.
pay for it while I'm in school, the month that I'm in school. So like the summer, that's kind of why I needed a job.
Oh, okay.
I can only save so much.
Right. So, is there like a restriction to how long for them to pay for that? How
Yeah, it's
long?
only 36 months of school. So, and they count it per month. So luckily they only counted they actually counted to the day. So like right now I think I have 34 and 2 days left or something like that.
Okay.
So
It's because you're only going like how many times a week, and then
yeah.
and then they don't count like the days you're not.
So it's nice.
Yeah.
It's
All right. Well, listen, you gotta get out of here. So.
Oh yeah, what time is it?
It's almost 5.
Oh jeez.
So.
Oh my goodness.
I appreciate you doing this. This was
Yeah,
cool.
thank you so much for
Anytime.
sharing your story. That was
Anytime.
awesome.